Tia, let me ask you this. Do you take more out of this loss in terms of what it says about Baylor or what it says about your boys down there in Lubbock?
My people down in Lubbock, is that what you're saying?
Your people down there in Lubbock.
My people, they didn't let these city folk tell them what they couldn't do. Hey, I think it says more, all joking aside, I think it says more about Texas Tech than it does Baylor. Guys, nobody was going to go undefeated this year. Well, it's that Big 12. It's ridiculous. Really talented bunch. Like the entire conference. It's. I'm sitting there looking at the schedule. I'm like, oh man, Texas. They go from Oklahoma State, then they have to play Iowa State, and Oklahoma's coming. I'm just like, goodness. There's just so many good teams. Nobody was going to go undefeated. More impressive was the fact that Texas Tech guarded so well against a team with so many offensive weapons. I mean, they swarmed to the basketball. They're still able to recover. Defensively, this Texas Tech team is going to put them in a lot of games. And Mark Adams,
the man can coach. That man can
coach.
He's been doing it for a long time. He's won at a lot of different levels. He won national titles at the junior college level. So there's a guy, I think his name is Greg Best, that was the coach at Three Rivers Community College, who is basically the Coach K of like that Texas, that like kind of Midwest JUCO. I think he's the career wins leader in the JUCO level. Mark Adams took Howard Junior College to the 2010 JUCO National Championships and beat that dude's ass. That's what he does. Now it also helps because he had a young man by the name of Jay Crowder on that roster.
Yeah, he's solid.
Yeah, he's not bad, but Mark Adams can coach. He's won a lot of games. He's done a lot of really great things. Just because it happened at the junior college or kind of the lower levels in West Texas doesn't mean that he wasn't able to go out and get it done. Went out and got it done on Tuesday night.
Yeah, plus you got to think about Adonis Arms all-name team. He was really good. All-name team. It was really good last night. And gosh, I'm just shocked. It changes the games because the biggest knock was, can Mark Adams get players in? The transfer portal changes that whole narrative. And we talked about it a little bit. Guys that are transferring have a much different perspective of what they want going in to finding a new school than high school seniors do. Mm-hmm. Yep. High school seniors are much more about the glitz and the glamour. Transfer kids, what fit is best for me and what coach is going to put me in the best position? There's a completely different approach to finding a school between transfers and high school kids. He is going to be able to capitalize on the transfers for a long time. The transfer portal hurts some teams. It's going to help Texas Tech for a long time as long as Mark Adams is.
Yeah, and you want to know why? We just talked about all the success that he had at the junior college level. You know what happens every single season at the JUCO level? You turn that roster over. And it's not just at the end of the season. Like, you got kids leaving middle of the year. You got kids leaving after the first semester. You got new players coming in all over the place. The idea in JUCO, it's all about like a moving target trying to put this together. And I feel like that's a little bit what it's like with Texas Tech, which is why you're seeing them have some success. And look, I want to give a shout out to some of the guys on that team that no one's ever heard of before. Clarence Naldoni, right? He came out of nowhere. He scored 28 points in wins over Kansas and wins over Baylor, right? Like, it's all about stepping up and taking the opportunity when the minutes are available to you. And you know what? When Tarryn Shannon comes back, he's going to have to go out there and earn his minutes. Like, Bryson Williams was awesome the last two games. Kevin O'Banner's making shots now. Adonis Arms went for 14 points, 9 boards, 5 assists, and had a poster dunk of the year so far at Baylor in a win. If Tarryn Shannon is coming back into this team, he's got to go earn his spot. And that right there is how you become a great team, because think about what those practices are going to be like now, Phantom. Think about walking into that gym, Tarryn Shannon, the guy that everyone thought was going to be your NBA player, coming in and he has to earn his spot from a guy named Adonis Arms. Those practices are going to be wars, and that is how you get better.
Well, I think Tarryn Shannon is an explosive player who can make things happen for Texas Tech. That being said, on the offensive end of the floor, at times, they over-rely on Tarryn Shannon to do something. And that's when you take him off the floor, sometimes it's the best medicine for a team to say, you know what, guys, we got to come together here. We got to pull together and move the basketball. Texas Tech's offense early in the season was not good. It was not good. All you had to do is go over to Madison Square Garden to that Texas Tech Tennessee game.
We don't need to talk about that. But we don't need to talk about that. That game did not happen.
Well, the point is a ball-stopping team, a team that said, we got to give it to McCullough. We got to give it to Shannon here. They got to make something happen. It was a lot of 1v1. A lot of 1v1. They didn't do that last night. But you know what they did? They switched everything defensively, and they said, 1 to 5, you're not going to beat us off the step. We're going to take you from the driving lane. So they said, you're going to have to hit 10 threes to beat us. They hit 8. Baylor hit 8. But last night, Texas Tech's defense did an absolutely fantastic job on a guy that people think could be an All-American in James Akinjo. They made James Akinjo his life a nightmare. They really did. Akinjo shot 1 for 8 from 3. That tells me that there's a degree of settling, and that tells me that Akinjo's having issues trying to figure out where he goes.
Yeah, to your point, Fanta, the perfect example of this was that final possession when Baylor drew up a play to get a switch for Marcus Santos Silva on Akinjo, and Akinjo dribbled the ball around for 17 seconds and could not create the space to get a shot off. You're right. That's what they do. They switch everything. They don't let you go middle, and they have nothing but dudes that are 6'6", strong, tough, physical, athletic. They can guard.
And they didn't overhelp. Which Akinjo does a nice job of getting past that initial defender. He's really good when that second defender comes. But he couldn't get past that first defender yesterday. And 2, they didn't overhelp. So what happens is it results in a lot of semi-contested shots for a guy that's 6'1" against all those 6'6" guys like you were talking about.
It's because it's such a weird defense that they play, right? Like it's the same one that Texas plays now because Chris Beard went there. It's the same one that Scott Drew plays because Scott Drew ripped that off from Chris Beard and Mark Adams after they made it to the national title game. And I'm not saying that, like, I'm not trying to take a shot at Scott Drew. Great coaches rip stuff off from people all the time. That's the way that the business works. Everybody's borrowing stuff. But for people that don't understand, what they basically do is if you have the ball on one side of the floor, they're not going to let you get back to the middle. They are going to overplay to the point where you can only drive baseline. So let's say that you're on the left side of the floor. They are going to sit on your right hand and make it so you have to drive left. And the reason they do that is because they can pre-help, right? They can get that help going before the ball's on the floor because you can only go one way, which is why they are so good at taking charges, because that perimeter player is great at forcing that driver to go to a specific spot. They don't help off the corner. They make you drive right to the charge spot, which is the block. And that guy is going to be the help defender is going to be there waiting because he knows you can only go one way. That's why they're so
tilting
good at taking charges. Yeah, that's all they do.
Yeah, they're tilting the floor. That's what the Celtics did to LeBron back when he was with the Cavs the first time. They tilt the floor, don't let the ball get swung for second side offense. And the good thing is most of the guys you play against at the college level, especially most teams, you tilt the floor, make them go left, and you're sitting high on that hip. They're pulling up. If they're going to pull up, that shooting pocket's right here. Sorry, guys. This is terrible for a podcast. The shooting pocket's right here. The defender's going to be right here. So you're going to be able to highly contest every shot going to the baseline. We played a little bit of that when I was in Ukraine, and they just got frustrated with me because I couldn't guard anything, anywhere, anytime. Didn't matter what we were doing. But at the same time, like it was really effective because whenever you load up like that, you're going to shoot. You're going to have mid-range jumpers that are open, but they're also going to be riding on your hip. So it's going to make it difficult.
Yeah, and the last thing that I'll just say is that that style of defense is going to be very difficult for Baylor to play against because the best way to beat it is to have guards that can kind of make those short kind of probing drives that'll force the help without over dribbling and then are big enough to see over the top of the defense to pick out wherever that leftover defender is. Because what they do is they pre-help to the charge spot, then they pre-help to what would be that baseline, almost like kind of like a hammer action. They don't let you make that pass along the baseline. So you have to be big enough to be able to pick your dribble up, get the ball above your head, and find the opposite wing, whoever is left open, whoever's the extra man. James Akinjo's 6'1". He's got 6'6" dudes on him. Adam Flagg.
How many college kids can make that pass effectively, consistently?
Well,
not a lot. That's why the defense is so great. That's why it works.
And you're going to get a team's best shot playing that defense because you're Baylor and you had won 22 in a row. The fact is there's not many teams that are capable of playing that level of defense, and that's why you tip your cap to Texas Tech because they've now done it in back-to-back games. To beat Kansas,
you know what I was thinking about, guys? Fan, I want to go to you on this one because I feel like this is a little bit Chris Beard's best teams at Texas Tech were when he had dudes that no one knew. He had the under the radar dudes. It wasn't when he was going out and getting Jamias Ramsey, and it wasn't when he was going out and getting Amari Burnett, and it wasn't when he was getting these 5-star kids that he could get once he made it to a national title game. His best teams were when he had like Keenan Evans and Jarrett Culver, who was a 3-star kid from Lubbock that wanted to go to Texas but didn't get an offer. It's when he had Zaire Smith, who nobody knew about except for Chris Beard and his staff when they went out and they got him into Lubbock. It's when they had Matt Mooney, who was a transfer coming in from South Dakota. It's when they had Tariq Owens, who transferred in because no one wanted him at Tennessee or St. John's. So it feels like that's the kind of team that Mark Adams has right now, right? Like these are a bunch of dudes that transferred in from smaller programs that have a point to prove, that are going to go out there and say, look, we can win the fight. We might be able to win the basketball game too, but we're going to win the fight, right, Fanta? Like, it feels like this is the kind of team that you want at a program like Texas Tech, that TO's people in Lubbock are really going to buy into.
Mm-hmm.
Look, it's what they did so well over Chris Beard's tenure was develop talent. The way that Jared Culver developed from basically a 3-star prospect into an absolute superstar on that national runner-up team in 2018-19. And if you're Texas Tech, and here's what I appreciate about that administration, they faced negative feedback when they made the Mark Adams hire. A lot of people did not agree with that hire. And I'm here to tell you that you can all shut up. You're all wrong. All of you. So sit down and eat a sandwich because you were all wrong. I'm telling you right now, I do not like it when people just give their hot takes because Mark Adams has never coached at a power conference school in a big game. That doesn't mean the guy can't coach. Do you know, folks, how hard it is to win at the JUCO level consistently? Do you have any idea how hard it is to win at a low major school? I was talking with someone yesterday at a school who was asking me about a certain position that they have open in their athletic department. And you know what they were asking me about? Who are the guys who are at low major departments who are grinding and figuring out a way to elevate their school in some way, shape, or form so that they could look at them? They didn't want just some fluffy face who's at a power conference school who might have worked hard to get where they are, but now is at a different point in their career. Mark Adams worked his ass off for a very long time to get this opportunity. And if you ask Chris Beard about how he got to a national championship game, he would tell you that it's because he had the best defense in America and Mark Adams was his defensive coordinator. Put some respect on the guy's name. Just because the guy doesn't look like the sexy coach. You know, somebody said to me, they were coming into the Providence, Texas Tech game a month ago. And somebody said to me at the game, I got to tell you, I walked by Mark Adams. I thought he was the team doctor. Like, he looks so unassuming because he doesn't look necessarily like the head coach of a basketball team that's going to be in the top 15 on Monday. But gosh dang it, he could coach. Mark Adams could coach. Put some respect on the guy's name. He's been through it all.
He's so kind of unassuming too, and he's got such a wild life story. Like, did you guys know that he owned minor league hockey teams with his twin brother in Amarillo? He owns minor league hockey. He is a hockey team owner. He was I think he boxed Golden Gloves when he was going out. So, like, look, if you got something to say to him, you know that Mark Adams is going to have those hands ready for you. My favorite story, though, the players wanted him, right? The players wanted him to be the coach. This wasn't a thing where it was like, they just gave it to the guy because of whatever. Like, the players fought for him and backed him and wanted him to be in. I was told there were multiple players that told the athletic department that they were transferring if Mark Adams was going to be the head coach.
Wow.
That's what it was. And part of the reason why I think this might be my favorite Mark Adams story is he knows every one of his players' favorite candies, and he has a stockpile of every one of those candies in his office. And so what he does is to get them to come in, he'll say just like, hey, Tarryn Shannon, I got a fresh bag of Reese's peanut butter cups for you to come by and hang out and talk. You just got to talk to me for 10 minutes in the office. And that's how he gets his players to come in, little one-on-one time, get to know each other, make sure they're always stopping by to go get that bag of candy after practice. I just love that. That to me was the most kind of like the most relatable thing about him, right? Like he's just kind of this old guy that wants to hang out with people and give them some candy, right? No, am I crazy?
But he also can coach his tail off, and that's what he's doing.
That helps.
One
that helps.
closing thought on